Welcome to the Health Matters Podcast. I'm your host, Kareem Amiri, and today I have with me Tyler Elliot, Group Medicare Consultant here at Wellmark, and happy to have him back. Tyler, I asked you to come back here today to share a few details related to Medicare and how employers can be a resource to help their employees navigate the transition from an employer-sponsored plan to Medicare. We had you here before, and you talked about some of this, but we want to get some more details. Some things have changed since then. And before we dive in, I want you to tell the listeners a little bit about yourself and what you do here at Wellmark.
Yeah, absolutely. So thanks for having me back. For those that maybe couldn't tune in last year or maybe they're new to their role, my name is Tyler Elliot, and I am the Group Medicare Consultant here at Wellmark. And really what my role is to help employers with Medicare solutions for their employees. It's a role that I love. It is meaningful work for me to be able to help those people navigate those complexities of Medicare and really make that next big step in their lives.
Yeah, it's really a confusing time for people, or it can be.
It really is. Yes.
I know our account teams really appreciate the work that you're doing. And I know employers do too as well. So before we really get into the meat of the conversation today, you mentioned we talked about groups and helping them, but remind us why it is important for employer groups to have that resource for their employees.
Yeah. So when you think about an employer group and an HR team that works with benefits within that employer's walls, they have a mountain of responsibilities, and seemingly that mountain continues to grow. So if you add on having to become an expert on Medicare or having to create and distribute resources on Medicare, that adds a ton to that plate that's already full. And that's really where we come in, is to act as that resource and that expert for employers to then help their employees. Like we talked about last year, for employer groups, employees really trust their employers, and especially when it comes to their benefits. So for an employer to have that expert and that resource, that not only helps them, but it also helps those employees that are trying to make that next step into Medicare.
Awesome. And you mentioned last year, when we had you on, we talked about some of those complexities that come with Medicare. And so today, our main goal is to break that down even further and really highlight 4 key items about that you need to know about before you get into Medicare or going on to Medicare. You provided me a list, so you all right if we run through it?
Let's do it.
All right, good deal. So I know first on your list, you have enrollment timelines. I know there's key time frames that members need to be aware of. For me, I'm always trying to remember what those are, not only for those enrollment purposes, but to avoid penalties. They can be pretty substantial. Please tell us a little bit more about each of those.
Yeah, so enrollment timelines are important because, as you mentioned, it could lead to a late enrollment penalty if they don't get enrolled at the right time for themselves. And I say for themselves because everyone has their own unique situation. And again, if you don't get enrolled at the right time, it could lead to a gap in coverage or lead to a late enrollment penalty. So I'll kind of break this down into 2 buckets, those that will be going on to Medicare at 65, and then those that might want to continue to work and stay on the group health plan.
Which for a lot of people, that's more and more the case.
More and more people are deciding to work past 65 and stay on their group health plan. So starting out with those that would retire at 65 or decide to go on to Medicare at 65, they have what they call the initial enrollment period. So as an employer listening to this, if you had somebody that came to you and said, hey, I'm going to retire at 65, what are my options? This would be that enrollment period they could utilize to go on to Medicare. So it's a 7-month window, starts 3 months before their 65th birthday, includes the month of their 65th birthday, and then will last for 3 months after their 65th birthday. Okay. Now, like we talked about, those that want to work past 65 and maybe stay on the group health plan. Yep. We get that question all the time. Do I have to go on to Medicare at 65? Can I stay on the group health plan? you can do that.
Yeah.
That's the short answer, right? It is something that you can do. The key to that is ensuring that you have creditable coverage.
Yes.
Most employers do offer creditable coverage, and essentially what that means is the coverage they offer is just as good, if not better, than what Medicare offers. So if you are someone that wants to continue working, continue on the group plan, just ensure you have that creditable coverage. You can continue to work and delay going on to Medicare and not have to worry about a gap in coverage or some sort of late enrollment penalty that could come.
So I know you mentioned credible coverage. There's been some changes. Could you explain some of those?
Yeah, there have been some changes to credible coverage and really what that means and how it's measured. So there was the Inflation Reduction Act that came about a couple of years ago. Yep. I think a lot of our listeners have heard of the Inflation Reduction Act, and it did a lot of things. One thing that it did do was greatly enhance the Part D benefit, so the prescription drug benefit under Medicare. And that credible coverage threshold is really an actuarial value that is placed out there. And it goes back to the point of your group health plan being just as good, if not better, than what Medicare offers. Yeah. So through that actuarial value, that's how they determine that. Now, with the Inflation Reduction Act and that Part D benefit being enhanced, that's going to change that actuarial value and that threshold that a health plan has to meet to be determined credible. So I'm going to way oversimplify this and just say that really what's happening is the group health plan has to cover, previously had to cover 60% of what a participant's prescription drug costs would be.
Right.
That is going to move to 72% that the health plan will have to cover of somebody's prescription drug costs. So there could be some plans out there today that don't currently meet that.
Yeah, and I think I've heard
could be more credible.
About 8% previously didn't meet. Now it probably will jump to maybe 25% won't meet. And for those large employers that are listening, you can reach out to your account team and ask us to check with our actuarial team to see if the plan is still credible or not.
Yeah, absolutely.
Awesome. So one other point here, one of the other points she had was, what if someone has an HSA that they contribute to currently? Are there any considerations for those folks as they reach retirement?
Yeah, really good question, and one that we get a lot from those employers that offer high deductible health plans and have employees contributing to an HSA. The general rule of thumb is you can't be on Medicare and make contributions to your HSA. That's considered a tax penalty, so you would be dinged financially if you made contributions while you were on Medicare. So a couple of things to keep in mind here. While you can't make contributions while you're on Medicare, you can use those HSA funds to help pay for most Medicare premiums. So premiums, copays, coinsurances, you can utilize to help your HSA funds to help pay for those things. Now, something else to consider is when you're on an HSA, and let's say you work past 65, Medicare will make your Medicare effective date 6 months retroactive from the date that you make your Medicare active. So
it's important to know that.
Yes. So, and again, that's if you work past 65. If you are going to go on to Medicare at 65, you don't really need to worry about that because the earliest your Medicare can be effective is age 65. So it'd be on your birthday. It's for those that work past 65, say now you're 67 and you're ready to retire, the day that you go to sign up for Medicare will actually be 6 months retroactive. So you wouldn't want to make HSA contributions within that 6 month time frame because technically you'd be considered on Medicare and you could be dinged with that tax penalty.
So there's really some planning that needs to be
Right.
had there. And,
Yes.
I'm sure there's things that employers can help with their members, or that we can provide to help with their members' literature and that sort of
Yes.
thing.
Yep. Absolutely. It's planning ahead and knowing your retirement date and knowing that, hey, I need to stop these contributions to my HSA at least 6 months ahead of this date that I've set.
Yep. And I know that there's legislation in Congress right now that could change some of this, but we'll talk about that at another time.
Yes. We'll see if that goes through the pipeline.
Yes. All right. So, that's great information for everyone, employers to have in their back pocket. One of the other things that you had on your list is what about COBRA coverage, or things like COBRA coverage? If someone that worked past 65 wanted to go on to COBRA before Medicare, can they do that?
Yes, they can do that. There are some things to keep in mind with that. Mainly, COBRA coverage is not considered creditable. So when we go back to talking about ensuring you have creditable coverage, that's just as good, if not better, than Medicare. COBRA does not typically meet that guideline. So if you wanted to go onto COBRA after your group health coverage ended, you can do that. Keep in mind that when you go off of your group health plan, you have what is called a special enrollment period. And there's a number of different events that trigger special enrollment periods. Going off of your group health plan is one of them, and retirement falls under that. That special enrollment period lasts for 8 months. COBRA typically lasts for 18 months. So you would want to make sure that you don't stay on COBRA for that full 18 months. You get enrolled within that 8-month time frame that you have for your special
enrollment. So really that clock
period
is ticking. That
exactly.
Once your employment ends, and you have that 8 months. So
yes.
Going longer than 8 months without enrolling in Medicare would be a big no-no.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
If you want to avoid those penalties,
Yes.
yes. Something else I'll say there too. So that would be, going on to your Part A and your Part B. Part D, your prescription drug, also comes into play there. If you are after 65, you only have 63 days that you can go without creditable prescription drug coverage. So if you go on to COBRA, you would want to make sure you go get a Part D plan within that 63-day time frame, so that you can avoid a late enrollment penalty for your Part D.
Because regardless of whether the health plan has credible coverage or not, for Part D, that 63-day period, just like for Parts A and B, that gets started.
Yeah, once you're off your group health plan. Now, there are some COBRA plans out there that might include prescription drug coverage that's considered credible. You would just want to make sure of that before you went on it, or before you went after 63 days of not having prescription drug coverage.
That was the list that you gave me prior, and it's a lot of great information. Emphasis on a lot of information. Yeah. We've talked about this before. Who could an employer reach out to with any questions regarding what we covered today? I know I've mentioned account teams they can reach out to, but are there additional people? I know you mentioned yourself, but is there any other additional resources?
Yeah. So as an employer, reaching out directly to myself and the Medicare business team at Wellmark would be your best resource to reach out to.
Yep.
Like we've talked about, that's what we're here for. We're here to help and to take that off of your plate, because it's not something you should have to worry about.
Yeah, and then your account manager that you work with could reach out to you and set up a meeting as well.
Yes, absolutely. Go through the account manager that you work with, or you can reach out to the Medicare business team. That email address is medicarebusinessteam@wellmark.com. If you have employees that have questions or are needing help with enrollments, they could reach out to our Medicare telesales team. They're a great group. I think I learn something new every day listening to those guys on the phone. And that phone number is 877-227-5161.
All right. Got that memorized.
Yes, I do.
Nice. Well, hey, thank you for joining me today. A lot of great information, as we said. And thank you for those of you tuning in to this episode of Health Matters. We hope you found the information valuable and insightful. If you enjoyed today's discussion, please sign up, or don't forget to subscribe to the YouTube channel. That's the Wellmark YouTube channel for more great content. We'll see you next time.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thank you.